Advocacy Day. And also if you want to watch it again, or if you have to leave early, or if your kids interrupt you, it will be available. So don't stress. Or if you are just absolutely tired because you've been in meetings all day and you're tired of hearing people talk at you, get that too. So we're going to take a little bit of time to do an icebreaker. We have a lot of folks here tonight, so don't feel pressured to answer this question if you don't want to, or to feel free to answer it in the chat if you don't want to come off of mute. And the question is to introduce yourself and share any hopes or fears that you have about Advocacy Day. And I will go first. I've already introduced myself, but I always have the fear that I'm going to forget something at my house in northern Macomb County and not realize it until I get to like 75 and 69. That's always my fear. Um, so I check my checklist multiple times, but you never know. How about you, Susan? This will be Susan's first advocacy day with MEJC.
Yeah, this is my first advocacy day, and I've been doing a lot of working on this for months. So I guess my fear is just that we have some hiccup that I don't even want to say it out loud. We just have some hiccup that's hard to overcome, but I really don't think that's going to happen. I would like to share my hope, and that is that we influence some policymakers and get our voices heard, and also form some community.
Awesome. And someone put in the chat that they hope that they are heard, really heard. I hope that we are heard too, and that all of you are able to share your wonderful stories with folks, and that our legislators listen and understand why we as parents and community members take days off of work and take time out of our schedules to go and see them and talk about this. I dropped in the agenda if you want to follow along in the chat. Does someone want to come off mute and share a hope or fear about Advocacy Day?
I will. This is Sin. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a part of the youth collective in MEJC. And so I have high hopes for all that they're planning, and I can't wait for you to see it as they do their panel discussions, and they also have some rally of sort out on the lawn with banned books. So we're hoping for great weather. So please hope for that along with us. Thank you.
Weather is always tricky. My first Advocacy Day, it snowed, and then last year the weather was perfect. So, you know, you never know. It's Michigan. It's Michigan. Michelle, advocate for multi-tiered financial support for SPED. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Anyone else want to come off mute?
My hope is that the Republicans see our strength in numbers and see that we're coming from all areas of Michigan, even the UP, to advocate for education for all of our students and to make sure that it's inclusive. If we can just sway a few of them, right? That's all it need. That's all we need. Um, that is my hope. I don't have any fears. That is my hope.
That's because you're a pro at this, Jacinda. You've done this a few times, but thank you for sharing. We definitely love that you are taking the time out of your schedule to join us and share your expertise with us that day. Anyone else?
Sure, I'll go.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. I'm Rebecca Irby. I am with New Detroit. I'm the Director of Transformational Change. This will be my first time doing Advocacy Day with this group, but it will not be my first time being in Lansing or doing advocacy work. I'm going to share a hope. I agree with the last speaker. There's nothing to be afraid of. When we're in community and we're there together, we're prepared. We've these are our lives. So when we share from our authenticity, when we share our stories, you can't make a mistake because it's you. And that's what this is all about, sharing our stories of impact and how we move the needle. And it's going to be amazing. We don't have anything to fear. So I just wanted to put that out there. I'm
Thank
excited for this day.
Thank you, Rebecca. And maybe one more, and after that person, we can continue to in the chat, but we're going to get started with our program.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica. I'm a senior at Dow High School in Midland, Michigan. So that's about like an hour and a half north of Lansing. And I am going to be honest, I am a little scared and nervous because as a young person, it's sometimes like hard to feel like your voice like can be taken seriously, or that like legislators especially will like care about our opinions. But I'm excited and I'm hopeful because this is our education and our future, and hopefully we get to take some agency in that, and also to meet a lot of wonderful mentors and role models. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yay, Jessica. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you all. Now let's get settled in for the first presenter of the evening. I think it says Perry in the agenda, but Perry had a last minute award ceremony for one of her kids happen. So it got a pinch hitter, and that's Molly from 482 Forward.
I'm going to be off camera because I'm at a funder event. So hello, everybody. My name is Molly, she, her, hers. I'm the director of organizing for 482 Forward. 482 Forward in Detroit, who's one of the co-chairs of the Michigan Education Justice Coalition. And I'm super excited to show you guys what we're going to be advocating for in Lansing. So we, over the last year, have done active listening with parents, students, educators across the state to really set the asks that we're going to be pushing to legislators on the 29th. So really excited, and we're going to walk you through them. You also have access to this document, so don't panic, and we will make sure that you have lots of support during the day if you have questions. So number one, and one of our big asks continuously is to fully fund Michigan schools and make sure we get what every student, hold on, Everett, make sure every student gets, sorry, y'all, I have a 2-year-old next to me. Oh, 1 second, Rochelle. I'm gonna go on mute for a second. Hold on. Sorry, y'all. This is called working parent. All right, back. We'll see it in a second. Okay, so Michigan schools have a $4.5 billion gap in school funding. And that has been a continuous gap. It grows every year with inflation. So our first ask is that we have our legislators fully fund our schools up to $5 billion. Now, they're not going to do this, but we want to continuously say to them, they need to find new revenue and stop cutting existing revenue. And so that is our first big ask. So we want them to find the $5 billion, raise new taxes on the wealthy, and stop cutting taxes on corporations, because we need $5 billion more for our schools. And then our top 2 priorities that came from listening were what we call 31A, but you should know 31A is really money for cities that have concentrated poverty across the state and special education. Those are our 2 top priorities. So number 1, we want to make sure that we increase the money for concentrated poverty in 31A by 20% this year. And then we want to fully fund it over the next 5 years. So that's for places in the city that have concentrated poverty. We want them to have more money continuously. So we know those are the students that have the most needs. We want to make sure there's more money for concentrated poverty cities, whether that be rural or urban. We want more money to concentrated poverty areas. The second one is we want more funding for special education. I don't tell people here special ed is underfunded. And so we want to increase the special ed funding, which is something called Section 56. Don't panic. That's what they call it, Section 56. That's the special ed bucket. We want to increase it by 124 million. We also want to make sure that within county level school districts, there's less inequity. So we want to actually change some policies on that one and make sure that between different school districts, every special ed student in every school district in every county gets what they need. And the last is we want to make sure that there is 100% funding for special education students in what we call the foundation allowance or the base funding. Up until last year, special ed kids did not get what we call per pupil funding. So count day special ed kids did not get the amount of money that every other student got across the state. Last year was the first year that special ed kids got a per pupil amount, and we want that to continue. And then the last few big buckets, one, we want to continue to invest in mental health. So there's a bucket that we call 31AA. I am so sorry, y'all. Called 31AA, where we want there to be funding for mental health counselors, and we want there to be $300 million in that bucket continuously. We also want that money. So we fought and won that for that money, which is the bucket of money that school counselors are paid out of. 31AA last year, the governor allowed it to also be used for school security. And so we want to this year for it to be changed back, for it only to be a bucket of money for school counselors. So not, we want the 300 million ongoing to remain in that bucket, but we want it to be restricted just for school counselors, not for school resource officers or security. The next one is we want $10 million to fund school transportation for foster care students. This has been a big issue, school transportation, especially for those who are in foster care or homeless. So we want 10 million for that. And then the last few, school facilities, a big report came out that we have a $23 billion gap in school facilities. We want there to be $100 million appropriated in the budget for school facilities. And then last two, bear with me, for our English language learners, section 41, we want that to be increased 2 times the base funding for students, because Michigan, we've been growing every year by students who have needs for English language learners, needs for learning English, and we have not invested in that enough. So we want that to be a double what the per pupil is, so more money for English language learners. And then we want to increase the foundation allowance. So that's count day, the number that every kid gets on count day, to $12,000. Rochelle, I think I went through everything. I'm happy to take some questions. That was quick and dirty. Okay. You're on mute, Rochelle.
Do you all want me to leave this up while we ask questions about this? Or I can stop sharing if it's distracting, either one. But for sure, if you have questions about this, like now's a good time to get those out. Maybe when you show up to Advocacy Day, you'll have the answer for somebody on your team or someone else that's there.
And I think just a summary again, that's like the most important, especially for the first time folks. So we're asking for new money, new taxation on the wealthiest corporations for schools. So we reached that $5 billion. We're looking for increased funding for English language learners, increased funding for special ed, increased funding for facilities. Like, these are the categories you can tell stories about. Your team leader will help you around the specifics if you get lost. But, to be able to kind of know the broad categories. But I'm also happy to answer more specific questions if folks want to.
Looks like Kimberly has a question.
I do, thank you. I'm curious what the rationale is for reserving the money that is dedicated to mental health for school counselors only, and not have that also utilized for school resource officers.
That was specifically led by our youth collective. There are other buckets of money for school resource officers and security. Often they can get that money from some of the state police buckets, whereas mental health obviously has been an ongoing crisis, and students have said ongoing that school resource officers aren't the answer. And there's other buckets of cash for it. So especially given the weight around COVID and post-COVID trauma with schools, that was very clear from our youth organizers across the state and young people that they wanted more money specifically for school counselors and not to go to school policing. And to be in particular, that came very loudly from our students from places like Detroit, Flint, communities that are often over-policed.
And it looks like Genevieve has a question.
Yeah, I'm curious about with the chronic underfunding problem, and maybe this is a really big question, but even a short answer is helpful. Um, what has been like the historic excuse for underfunding education? Like, is it just because they say there's not sufficient revenue, or are there other mechanisms that they pull into play as an excuse?
That's a really great question. That's a few things. I would say at the state level, our revenue as a state has gone down considerably given inflation. I wish I could share a chart right now. Considering inflation right now, Michigan schools, even though we say we're at historic levels, are probably close to the 2009 levels of funding. And really, my quick answer is that we've decreased something called tax effort, or the amount of effort we put toward taxes. So during the Snyder era and before, we cut corporate taxes, we've cut taxes on the wealthy. And so the pie has just shrunk overall, and that impacts everything. And then post COVID recovery, but also post recession recovery has been slower than anyone would expect. But I would say the big thing is we have cut back taxing corporations and the wealthy, just wholly decreasing the pie across the board. Hence why our roads can't be funded and schools, and why you hear a lot about trying to make sure we have revenue. So this is the chart. Yeah.
The chart. So this chart explains to us or shows or illustrates what the education revenue in the state of Michigan has done since 94 when we passed Proposal A. And we can get Proposal A was something that Michigan passed to say we're going to decrease the local responsibility, tax responsibility for schools, and make it as uniform as possible across the state. There are some exceptions to that. It's questionable and inequitable, some of those exceptions, but we can see like over time that when we account for inflation, these numbers are, kind of early 2000s. So, well, a lot of times you'll hear the elected folks say, well, we're funding at record levels, but they're not accounting for that little dirty word called inflation.
Yeah. And the other piece here, you'll see like that, schools are also funded heavily by the sales tax, which are physical goods. We don't fund sales tax, or we don't tax everything. And especially as our economy has moved towards the digital economy, more and more things aren't taxed as much. So we've also lost revenue from kind of the way we've structured things, which means it's probably time to also extend our sales tax to goods and services that are in sort of our new economy.
So super quick follow-up question, but does that mean if it's kind of due to the overall pie getting smaller, then we can really attribute also a value comment that, that the choices are being made to take that money away from education. Is that fair?
Absolutely, that's definitely fair that there's prioritization of tax cuts for the wealthy and corporations instead of our roads and our schools and our communities. Absolutely.
If I could add to that, we are also hearing from legislators on who are opposed to increased spending, that spending hasn't been correlated to good outcomes, but that's more of something that they're just throwing out without any evidence. We have deep evidence over many decades that increased school spending does lead to positive outcomes.
I'm sorry to be rude. I can't raise my hand. I'm on safe driving mode, but I want to piggyback off of that. There's also legislators who are when we talked about school funding, they were actually looking at extracurricular activities and not actual school funding. And then if I can add to that with the special education funding, when we are there on lobby day, this is my first lobby day. When we are there on lobby day, are we going to bring up the Michigan blueprint? My blueprint for the special education funding?
So we're going to talk about my blueprint funding probably in a different way. That data has really just come out, and we as MEJC haven't voted on that being, because we are a coalition of
Right.
people. We haven't voted on that being like our endorsed policy. I personally really love that data that came out of it, but what Rochelle likes and what, you know, everybody across the state being a collective, we have to establish that consensus.
I think that we could probably also just like reference though, like we
Yeah.
know that there's I mean, we've definitely endorsed the idea that there's deep inequity
Mhm.
in the way that we fund special education. And then the School Finance Research Collaborative Report. So just so everyone knows, most of our data and research comes from a report done by educators, our state superintendent, school leaders, community leaders across the state. In 2017, I might be getting the date wrong, called the School Finance Research Collaborative Report, which we will pass out a copy to you on lobby day, which is which is a report about how we actually build a system in Michigan where every student gets what they need. So if you're from a community that has more poverty, or if you're rural, you know, what does it actually look like to give what we call weighted school funding? Funding that allows everyone to get more baseline, then more funding on top of it. And so that report, though, has a little bit about special education, and also is referenced that like we have deep inequities. So it matches really well with the blueprint. But just so folks know, all of these answers in here are based off of that idea of weighted school funding, and that kids based on needs need more money. That we can't serve every kid the same. When some kids are coming from a wealthy family, maybe Birmingham, Michigan, and don't have needs, whereas other folks are coming from homes and communities that have far more resource needs.
So just teach back method, the socioeconomic status and the way the taxes are divided causing the inequities, that's what we're going to look at.
And I mean, on that first document that Molly went over, we have some like basic suggestions for how to fix special education, but we acknowledge as a coalition that those are really just the first stepping stones. And again, Rochelle feels, I think my blueprint study and some other studies that have come out really do help us like do that next step. But the bottom line is that the kids who need the most should get the most. And the kids who don't need as much should, yeah, and Elena is here from the Autism Alliance. They are their arm, that my pack is a coalition partner. So if you want to know more about that, Elena just dropped the link in the chat. Thank you, Elena.
Welcome. I'm not feeling great today, so I'm gonna stay off camera and try to save my voice, but I'll also put my email in the chat if anybody wants to connect with me later.
Thanks, Elena. Yeah. So any other questions about our budget asks?
Any other
sure.
questions? And don't be shy. These are like, you know, it's also on lobby day. You'll have team leaders there, you'll have folks, and it's okay to talk about the broad categories that you care about. Like more money for special ed or more money for kids in poverty. That's appropriate also.
And as we go through the rest of the meeting, we'll be giving you some resources to kind of make some of this more clear for you as well.
We don't have any other questions. We'll go on to the next part of our agenda, which is the legislative meeting 101. So what does it look like? And thank you, Molly. Molly's gonna hop off. Thank you
Thanks,
for
y'all.
joining us.
Here's a little guy you was hearing the whole time. Sorry, y'all.
Oh, hi, Everett.
Say hi. Say good luck, everybody.
Thank you, Molly. All right, so a legislative meeting, which I think is the kind of the most nerve-wracking part of it. You all, my first time that I ever went in to do what is technically called lobbying, but even though when you're just a community member, and I say just in quotation marks there, community members and voters are the most important people in this whole process. A lot of folks worry about, well, I don't know what to expect. I don't know all the finer points of this policy. I don't, I'm nervous. Is there somebody here that's been to lobby day with us that I'm going to call? I have a few people. I might call on you all. So just be prepared. Yeah, you don't have to be nervous. The folks that are going to meet with you, your elected representative or some of their staff people, depending on what their schedule is like for the day, really do want to hear from you. That's why they respond and set up meetings. And usually the meetings are about 15 minutes long, not very long at all. And you as a team will meet before you get thrown into the Capitol building. So you'll have a team of about 5, 6, 7, 8 other community members that live near you that are going to go into the meeting with you. And you'll have a team leader that has probably done this before. So they're going to help you all work out your script and your plan for how you want to approach your meeting with your legislator. Every team will have at least one meeting, and you will go into the Capitol. If you were going into their office buildings, this is something important to remember, and I'm going to put it on the logistics sheet. It's important to bring your photo ID with you if you're an adult. They require that, the security requires that into the office buildings. The Capitol building, they're a little bit more lax because you have the right to go in and see the Capitol Dome. First field trips and going in and out for that. But if you're going into an office building, a lot of times the security officer will ask for your identification. You'll go into their office and they'll say, hey, thanks for meeting with us. You will introduce yourself and where you're from, and your team will go through the script or the agenda that you all have developed together before you left the church. So one of the things that we will talk about is like, what is your story? What are you bringing to Lobby Day? You're going to discuss that with your team, and they're going to say, okay, Genevieve, go ahead and tell your story. Okay. And then at the end of it, the team lead will probably share that sheet that Molly was talking from, the MEJC budget asks, and ask them if they have any questions. That's it. And then you say thank you. They'll say thank you. Sometimes they'll ask for some follow-up, or you'll say, I don't know, we don't have the answer to that. So you'll get their information and bring it back to us, and we can follow up with them later. It's really easy. They're going to listen to you intently. They're not going to debate you. They're not going to argue with you. They're not going to make you feel stupid. They're not going to, say, well, you're crazy for asking for this. Sometimes there might be some gentle pushback of, well, we don't have enough money for that. And then you'll say, well, we have answers for that, but thank you. But they're not going to, this is not debate club. Does that make sense? Does that make you all feel a little bit better? Yes, I see some heads nodding.
I have a quick question because this
Yes.
will be my first lobby day.
Mhm.
That's actual lobby day. I'm a former Detroit public school teacher. So we would go to like rallies and things like that, but we
Mhm.
never actually, most of the time, we never made it into offices or Capitol building. Do you kind of give us a rundown of that was my question, dress code, like a rundown of dress code, things that we should or should not absolutely carry, like water bottles, what's in your purse, that kind of jazz.
Don't bring a weapon with you.
Obviously, yeah, obviously.
That's it.
Okay.
Don't bring a weapon with you. They're pretty, straight there. You are in some of the buildings gonna have to go through a little metal detector, but don't bring a weapon with you. Dress code. We are a community org and we think that dress codes are bullshit. So be comfortable. You'll see staff, we're going to be wearing our hoodies and our t-shirts that say fund our schools, fund our future. Dress for the weather. and dress for your comfort would be the most important thing that I can say to you. This is not a, like, put on your finest suit day. Because yeah, those are remnants of white supremacy. You know, not everybody has a suit. Not everybody wants to wear a suit. So be comfortable. Don't bring weapons. Bring a photo ID. Those are great questions, Kristen.
What about a water bottle? I think you can bring a water bottle.
Yeah.
Is that right? I know they sell water in there, but it's, be better to have your own.
I always have water on me because I have chronic dry mouth from some of my medications. So water and I are good friends. Water and gum and I are good friends. Oh, Elena, yeah, at the end of the day, they're legislators too, or they're people too. And yeah, you're there to bring your lived experience to them. That's a great point, Elena. If you don't have any other questions like that, but feel free, if something comes up, ask it. Yeah, and in fact, they know a lot less than we do, 1,000%. Not everybody who is there, knows what's even in the education budget. We are meeting with the people that should know what's in the education budget, but they don't know a lot of times what's going on in the school districts in their legislative district. So that's the story of a parent or a student or a family coming from their legislative district is a powerful tool. Yes, you will have handouts, Brenda, and you will have like a leave behind for the meeting that you have. And then potentially you'll have another folder or leave behind for somebody who didn't confirm for lobby day. Yes, Sin?
And I remember we had enough time with our team that we got to look up a little bit about who we are going to go visit. So maybe not everybody in your group goes to see your representative. I know my representatives don't need to be talked to as much at the state level. So I hope to be able to talk to others that maybe I don't know as much about, or I haven't been to their coffee hour or town hall. But you can look them up and know a little bit about them, and you can gear your story so that it touches them and back to you so that you can get these asks in. It's much more like having a conversation. And that was me from last year. First time I knew nobody there. Well, maybe Drew a little teeny bit on a computer, but that was about it. And it was much more friendly than that. They have like a podium there in the church, and they're gonna talk to you and get you pumped up. They're gonna give you coffee, and they're gonna show you where the restrooms are, and you're gonna make that like your little home. And then you'll get a slip of paper that says, "Be ready, team. At this time, you're gonna go to this place." Mine was an office building. You're going to go to this place and meet with whoever you're going to meet with. And here's the bio and a folder, and here's a little info, and here's all your papers, and your whole team's looking it over. And then you meet back for lunch, and then we'll do a picture all together before the end of the day. And it is very much about supporting you, that you're there, hoping to show real faces and not just another lobbyist. They get the lobbyist in the suits and the dresses all the time. And we are the real people going to them, talking about real stories. And that's what we do best. Not all just the jargon and the pieces of paper and the other stuff we're learning behind the scenes.
That's brilliant, Sin. And yeah, you will get a bio of the legislator that you're going to visit that we'll provide for you, so you know who it is, because they might not, that is true, they might not be your representative. And the reason for that is not everybody confirms with us, and not everybody is on the Education Appropriations Subcommittee or the Appropriations Committee or the Education Committee. So, those are that, we try to target those people the most. But if you wanted to stop by your representative's office and hand them that and say, "Hey, I'm here, you know, we will provide copies, and that's your right too, as a constituent, is to show up in their office. All right. I'm going to pass it over to Susan, who's going to talk a little bit about what it means to tell your story.
Yeah, and I just want to thank Sin also again for telling her story. I love hearing about your experience and also just thinking we're all going to do it together, and I'm really excited about that. So what I hope everyone can do
Can I
right now.
laugh and ask you, are we
Oh,
going
yeah.
to make aprons this time? Or what are we going to do in the beginning that's the fun activity that gets everybody going? Because we did that last time. We decorated aprons. It kind of, it just
Yep.
makes you feel better. I don't know what we're doing this time.
We do have aprons to decorate, and so we will be decorating those and maybe some surprises. I'm not really completely sure yet, but we'll be spending some time together and being creative and relaxing and, you know, getting kind of psyched up to go talk to the legislators for sure. Yeah. So if everybody could take just a minute to think to themselves about what it is that brings you here tonight. What is it about education that is pulling you to want to be involved and to want to make a change? What is your personal story? How have you been affected by public education? Or how has your loved one been affected by public education? What are you looking for? So when we go talk to our legislators, we want to have that real story in mind, and then we want to connect to them on a human level. So we did have one other meeting, and I know some of you were here for that, where we talked about how to tell your story. But I think we should share the printable advocacy volunteer cheat sheet just share that with everyone, Michelle. And I think this might help you. This is something that we're gonna email out to you a couple of links so that you have things in advance. But this is something that I think will maybe also set your mind at ease. So we've created this little cheat sheet. It's printable, so you can print this out for yourself. And you'll also be working, your team leads will have this. They'll have more advice for you. Maybe some of you might be team leads. So you might be sharing this with some of your volunteers. But first, you're going to introduce yourself to your legislator and tell them that if you are from their district, and we will be making an effort to pair people with the legislator from their district if it's possible. If you are from their district, you'll tell them that. You'll tell them that you're from MEJC, tell them a little bit about us, or you're with us. Then you'll tell them about our overall budget priorities, and that those were determined by asking people. We surveyed people from across the state and came up with these budget priorities. And then third, you'll choose the issue you want to discuss with them. So take a second and think about the thing that I asked you to consider. Why are you here tonight? What is it that's really drawing you to talk to your legislator and to work on education funding? This we've kind of simplified from what Molly was telling you into these kind of big chunks. So help at-risk students is 31A, increase special education funding is the second thing, expanded access to mental health support is the third thing, and supporting students experiencing homelessness and foster care is next on the list, and investing in school facilities. So, you know, maybe you have a kid who goes to school in a place where they have to wear a coat to class because the boiler at their school isn't working and it's not comfortable enough to sit in the class. You know, I'm wondering if anybody here would like to tell me why they're here tonight, and we can see if we can tell which one of our budget priorities we talk about because of your story. Can I get a brave volunteer?
I will.
Thank you.
I'm a special education teacher. I'm teaching early intervention. I taught almost 25 years in the Detroit public school system. And now I'm in a suburban district. But I also have a child who has an IEP that, as of right now, is not being followed properly by his school district. And nobody seems to be very bothered by that, I think, except for me. And obviously my husband and him. And every time I bring something up, it falls on deaf ears. Out in the community, people seem to be afraid to even speak up and kind of like buck the system. And it's extremely frustrating. And then as a special educator, I get story after story after story from parents who just feel paralyzed. And I know that part of it is lack of funding. I know part of it is lack of training. I know there's a lot of different pieces of the puzzle that are missing. But I'm finally at the point where I just decided I need to start speaking up. But it's like that good trouble. I need to get in some good trouble and make a difference for these kids and these families who are just completely paralyzed and not able to speak up for themselves because they're scared, they think they're going to say the wrong thing, whatever it is. So I just decided at this point in my life, I'm going to be a voice. I'm going to obviously start at home with my own child who's graduating in about 5 weeks, thankfully. But I'm going to continue to speak up for the kids that I service and the families that I service.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Kristen. And that's really inspiring. And I think a lot of people can relate to what you said about those kind of struggles for their kids. I think that one of the things that we really want to do is build power among people who care about school education, funding, and issues in general. So the more we all get together and we put our voices together, the more power we build and the more change we can see. And, maybe right now when we go to Advocacy Day, we're talking about funding, but we are certainly working to address other things as well. So it's something that we should continue to work on together, besides just making sure that we have the funding that we need. But that's exactly what we're talking about today, is just the story of your lived experience. What is it and why do you want this? And so we're going to take those stories, we're going to go to our legislators, and we're going to tell them that we need funding for these things that our kids need. If you go on down the list, basically it's telling you then to this little place here, you can write notes about your story and what you might want to share. And then last, you'll get their feedback and a commitment. You'll say, what do you think about what I've just shared with you? Can you commit to championing the budget priorities in this budget cycle? And thank you for meeting with me today. So that kind of takes you through a little bit more of an idea of how it's going to go when you're talking to your legislator and how you might tell your story. Does anybody have any questions about that? We were thinking about doing some breakout groups, but Rochelle, do you think we have time? Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. We do have time. So
Okay.
I'm going to put folks in breakout rooms for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And if you all just want to kind of talk about your stories, if you want, you can practice your story. If you want, I can pop in and out of rooms, hopefully, and help you if you have questions about where your story would correlate to some of the MEJC asks that we have. So, 10 or 15, well, we'll say 15 minutes in these breakout rooms. There's 44-ish people here. So we'll do 10 breakout rooms. How about that? All righty. Open all rooms. It should be asking you to go to your room. If not, there is a button at the bottom for breakout rooms, join room. Hi, friends. Jacinda, you're a pro at this. Elisa, do you want to go to a room?
Hi, sorry. No, just keep bopping in and out of here tonight. I thought this was supposed to be at 8. What are we doing right now?
we're in breakout rooms talking about our stories and seeing what thing they might tie to in the budget asks.
Okay. I was trying to decide if this is stuff I've already know or not.
You know this stuff.
I just didn't know if there's anything new. And I just
No.
finished dinner and I'm popping back on and apologizing for.
No. And you're going to be a team lead. So
Yeah, that's what I figured. We have another meeting, don't we? Is there a team lead
there's a
meeting?
team lead meeting. If it doesn't look like we have to have a bunch of new people for the team lead, there's an entire possibility that I say enjoy your evening.
Okay. That's fine. No, I'll I don't think I have any. Oh, my
no,
only
like-
question is, are we going to will we know who the legislator we're going to see before lobby day? If there's a way, I would love to research my person.
Okay. Maybe. It
Okay.
depends on how crazy it gets.
Right. No, I know. But if you guys do know in advance, I'm
it
a
might be- and it
researcher
might
and I
be-
would love to figure some stuff out on my person.
Yeah,
You know what I
think
mean?
I have you as a team lead with, because I can tell you who if you're a team lead, I've started like taking our pros. I can kind of tell you who I thought you might be with. Give me 1 second. Let me look it up.
Cool.
Planning. No, I called it lobby day planning. That's why it's coming up. My project plan. Teams by legislator. Elisa, who do I have you with? Right now I have you with Nancy DeBoer.
Nancy DeBoer.
Mhm.
Excellent. Excellent. I shall be working on some
Nancy's she's met, so even though she's a Republican, she's met with us. She's a former teacher.
Yeah. Oh, that's
She's
good.
pretty cool.
Good.
And her husband's still teaching, I think. So she's pretty cool.
All right. Excellent. No, that's good to know. I'll go help my family finish cleaning up dinner maybe now. I ran away.
Okay.
But okay. Cool.
fun.
Thank you. I'm gonna step out again. Thank you. See ya.
Hi, Sarah. Did you have any questions, or are you just hanging out because you're on your phone and driving? Or you can just hang out.
Sorry, I was just on my phone driving. Thank you.
Okay. No worries. I understand. Hi, Natasha. You jumped in just when we were in breakouts. How are you?
Saw that. I got kicked, my internet dropped. So it's cool. Yeah.
We'll send the recording out later.
Okay. Thank you.
And then I don't know if some of you were knew about this, but this afternoon Zoom had an outage. So like, yeah, I was supposed to have a county table meeting and we were like last minute rearranging things because Zoom didn't work. So, technology. Welcome back, everybody. Or not everybody. People are going to start pouring in. Welcome back. All the little boxes popping up on my screen. All right.
My favorite thing about that was just being with other people and seeing everybody's faces and everybody ready to go. It was awesome. How did that go for everyone else? Did you all figure out some of your stories, what you want to share at Advocacy Day? Does anybody want to share anything from their group?
I just noticed in my group how everybody had an exceptionally powerful story, and each one of us had a different thing that we would be advocating for. It was a cool little group.
Nice.
I really appreciate all of you joining us for Advocacy Day and sharing your stories with the folks and building community with us and showing power in community. And I know it's not easy to take time out of your lives to go to Lansing if you don't live right there. Even if you do live right there, to dedicate a day to join some folks. So I really appreciate you all committing to do that with us. So as we're all back, we're gonna do the last couple of things, and then we're gonna release you to your evening. So the next thing is, if you do not have a confirmation email that you've registered for Advocacy Day on April 29th in Lansing, here's the link to do that. So let's take a couple of minutes. You guys check your inbox, your trash, whatever, and make sure that you've registered. Or if you're not sure, go ahead and register again. We'll find the duplicate. So then that way we can count you and get you on a team and make sure there's food to feed you and make sure that we meet your dietary needs and accessibility needs, all of those important things.
And I just want to make sure everyone knows how to get into the chat, right? So that they can get this link. If there is someone who doesn't know, raise your hand and I'll help you.
Question, but not about the chat. I heard people mentioning a church that we're meeting in. Where is this? Is that in Lansing?
It is in Lansing.
Okay.
So that's the next part. So while you're all registering, I'm going to bring that up on my screen, my little map and address, and I'll share my screen with you all. Thanks, Tina, for joining us. I'm going to share my screen for you all. So we always meet at this place called Central Lansing United Methodist Church. And this is the address. It will be sent to you again in an email. And it was on the registration, but this is the address. It is literally across the street from the Capitol building. Okay. So that's where it is. It's on the corner of Ottawa. And is that I think that is Capitol Avenue. Did I see somebody put something in the chat or raise their hand?
I just popped into the chat an address where you can find free parking
Okay.
where I work at Riverwalk Theater, but it is an 11-minute walk from there to the church. So it might not work if the weather's bad or if you have mobility needs.
Yeah, I will say this. This is the other spiel. The parking is paid parking is located on Capitol Avenue between Shiawassee and Ionia, which is right here. Street parking is available, but it has a limit of 2 hours unless you have a disability placard, and then you can pay for the whole day. So those are the sort of parking idiosyncrasies to know, but it's good to know that there's a free parking option, and I might copy that and put that in this document if that's okay, Abby. The other thing is our program starts at 9 a.m. So folks, you're welcome to start pouring in as early as 8:30 to grab some coffee, grab a bagel, talk to people, say hi to us, meditate, whatever that is. So the program starts at 9 a.m. This will all go out in an email as well. So don't if you're like, oh my God, I'm going to lose this, I'll send it out later. Are there any questions about that part? And we usually conclude about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Any questions about the logistics? Breakfast is usually bagels, coffee.
How long
water.
are we actually at the Capitol? Like, can you just kind of run through a really rough timeline of the day? Like, so we arrive at 9, we do.
So at 9, we do our welcome, and then we have a kind of rundown. Each team is going to have a different appointment schedule, depending on which legislator you're meeting with. So we'll start our program at 9. Some folks have meetings as early as 9:30. You guys are free to, during the day, come and go from the church as often or as much as you need. If you need quiet, if you want to come back and get a snack. You're also welcome to go into the Capitol building. They'll be in session and just observe whoever is voting. I think the morning is the Senate and the afternoon is the House, if I remember correctly. And if they're meeting that day, the education committees usually meet on Tuesdays. That's why we have advocacy days on Tuesday. So if you want to go to a hearing, the House side has not been holding, in all honesty, committee meetings every Tuesday lately. So I can't promise you that there will be a House Education Committee meeting on Tuesday. The other thing that we are doing is at 12 o'clock on the West Capitol steps. So on the opposite side from Capitol Avenue, we're going to have a press conference and a little rally. And you're welcome to join us for that. There'll be lunch available in the church. There'll be water, snacks. That's just kind of it. So each team will have sort of a broken down schedule based on what time their legislative meeting is.
And we'll have lunch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Lunch too.
We got to go put a kiddo to bed. Thank you, Jennifer. Any other questions that I can answer for you before you come to Lansing? And if you don't think of it now, it's not forever hold your peace. You can email me and ask.
I'm sorry. What did you say as far as apparel? What are we supposed to wear?
Be comfortable.
Okay.
I will be in either a sweatshirt or a t-shirt and a skirt because I like wearing skirts. I hate hard pants. That's my that's my personal preference. Some folks wear jeans, some folks, wear leggings, but be comfortable. This is not a business casual situation.
Are we getting assigned to teams and meetings with legislators based on what regions we live in and what regions those legislators represent, or is
Yes.
it completely random?
That's the hope and the prayer is that you get somebody that's geographically close to you somewhere.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
That's a good question, Jessica. Any others? If you don't have any other questions, I'm going to release you into the world to go to sleep.
I'm not sure if I'm saying your name right, but can I connect with you if you mentioned carpooling, or if there's anyone else in the Detroit area? We're down to one car right now, so I wouldn't be able to make it if I don't find a ride. So.
Rebecca,
Yeah.
let me follow up with you because there is a bus that leaves from Techtown.
Oh, okay.
In downtown, or we can maybe find somebody that's closest to you.
I'm leaving from downtown also. I can give you my phone number.
Okay.
Awesome. I will take that and contact you. Thank you.
Yeah, if you find that you need a ride, please let me know and I will try my best to find a organization or someone else in your area that you might be able to ride with and make that connection.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And if not, bye. Thank you so much for joining us, taking the time out of your evening. I really appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to somewhere here stop recording.